will be having what we hope to be a wonderful and really instructive, engaging, and ideally hopeful discussion about the gun violence pandemic right now really going on in Philadelphia. A discussion between some of our truly fantastic and talented Mighty Writers students who've been involved with us for several years, and with some wonderful area leaders in Philadelphia who volunteered their time this evening to be a part of this discussion. My co-host this evening is Naima Khan, and I will move over to her so she can introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Naima. My name is Naima Khan. I am the program director for Mighty Writers North. I'm also the manager of distribution for our volunteer department, and I'm delighted to be here tonight with everyone. Good evening.
Brilliant. Thank you, Naima. Thank you. So for the objectives of this evening's forum are, we have a few. Our students live with this violence in really direct ways, and we want our students to be able to have the opportunity to express themselves and raise their voices and find their power. For our corporate partners, we want them to be able to share the ways that they are involved in our community and to share the steps that they are taking to support our youth and hear directly from them as to what would help them most. And we're hoping that they can all learn from each other, and we're hoping that everyone watching will be able to learn from this conversation as well, and maybe take some ideas back to your own communities as to how you can be a part of the solution. The students that we'll be hearing from, we have 5 students with us this evening. We have Abigail Chang, Kiamuya Mazama, Nia Peterson, Mikhail Montague Pollock, and Lanaya Smith-Williams. And for our corporate leaders from SEPTA, we have Pamela McCormick, who's the Director of Legislative and Community Affairs. From Amatech, we have Alex Whitlam, Senior Manager, Investor Relations and Philanthropy Engagement. We have William Carter IV, who is the VP of Local Government Affairs at the Greater Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce. And we have Joanne McFall, the Market President for Keystone First. So with this, I'm going to go ahead and bring this to our students to frame this discussion a bit, just so folks understand how serious this is right now. Today, Philly's gun violence is at its worst. A lot of people predicted that in the pandemic, of course, because we would all be in lockdown, that violence would actually decrease. And in Philadelphia, this has actually surged over 30% over last year, both in shootings and in deaths. As of this week, we're at nearly 300 homicides. And we're at well over 2,000 deaths, close to 2,100, including over 100 children. I believe last weekend the count was at 102 children. Last year, Mighty Writers held a town hall in partnership with the Peace Center, with Philadelphia Ceasefire, with Anti-Violence Partnership of Philadelphia, and March for Our Lives Philadelphia. We had many government officials in attendance, in addition to many of our students, one of whom is here as well, to really be a part of that discussion. And so we are super thrilled to welcome our students, each of whom will be discussing their particular experiences before we then go over to our corporate leaders. So with that, Abigail, I would like to invite you to go first. And so if you would be able to, once again, give us your name and the school you're at, what grade, and then go ahead and share with us what it is you brought this evening.
Hi, my name is Abigail Chang. I'm 17. I'm going to be a senior this year. I go to the city school. Probably never heard of it, but it's all right. It's not really well known. And I actually wrote something to prepare for you guys today. So I'm a little nervous, but okay. All right. So I'm going to share my experience and why I'm here today and why this is so significant to me. So growing up in Southwest Philadelphia, gun violence has always been a norm to me. In fact, I was never really able to picture a life without it being so prevalent. I was used to hearing police run through my alleyway hours after being called. I was used to the sound of gunshots and being able to differentiate them between fireworks. I was used to my parents not sending me to the corner store because, as we say in Jamaica, prevention is better than cure. I've lost many loved ones due to this social norm in Philadelphia. Just a few weeks ago, my dad was on the porch when some random man pulled up on my block and started shooting. There were kids playing on the street. my neighbors trimming their hedges, when suddenly bullets go flying in every direction because this shooter in particular had a bad aim. As my dad was telling me the story, he kind of shook it off as if it wasn't a big deal, when in reality, him minding his own business on his property could have cost him his life. I started to ponder on why we shake these things off and not consider them to be a big deal. We view them as simply just a part of this lifestyle. I later came to the conclusion that I don't deserve this. The kids growing up across the street from me don't deserve this. The young adults who are attending the local universities don't deserve this. The elderly who want to see their grandchildren grow don't deserve this. Violence should not be considered a social norm anywhere, but especially not in the city of brotherly love.
Thank you so much, Abigail. That was beautiful. Yeah, snaps. That was beautiful. Next, we are going to hear from Kiamuya.
Hello, I'm Kiamuya. I'm 15, and I wrote something as well. So, fortunately, I haven't experienced gun violence, unlike some of my friends who go to school or use public transportation. I've been homeschooled since I was 6, and school violence was one of the main reasons why. Where I live, gunshots and police sirens are heard daily, which is pretty stressful knowing you could get hit by a stray bullet or murdered by cops at any time. I remember last year walking back home from the park with my friend and seeing an ambulance taking a man who had been shot at least 5 times and was bleeding on the sidewalk to the hospital. That experience was definitely traumatizing. There was another time where one of my friend's cousins had gone into a fight and it escalated to the point where the guy stabbed him in the shoulder and ran away. A lot of kids I know think beating up someone they don't like makes them tough or more of a man, which is really unfortunate. But I know most of my friends who go to school have at least one or more videos of them beating up someone else, which is really sad. But thank you.
Thank you, Kiamuya. Thank you. That was wonderful. Yeah, that's profound. Thank you. Nia, would you be able to go next? Brilliant.
Hi, my name is Nia Peterson. I'm 18 years old and I'm a freshman at the University of Pennsylvania. And I wrote a little bit of a rant about everything that's going on right now. There are 3 main acts of violence that I witness every day on social media and the news. The first is the pandemic. I see thousands of deaths each week, demands for more medical equipment, and calls for individual responsibility. Voicing over such images of chaos are the arguments about what should be done, politics often playing a larger role than medicine in the conversation. The second act of violence is the climate. Tropical storms threaten to demolish our southern states and our neighboring countries. Wildfires in California eagerly spread. While we are at war with each other, we often forget that the earth is at war with us until it is too late. And the third act of violence pertains to the streets. Protests, arson, physical altercations, gun violence, all fueled by rage and a demand for change, something that I too feel strongly. The acts of gun violence that I see daily online are particularly disturbing to me because I am in a state of reflection, along with many others who find themselves still stuck in quarantine. This pandemic has revealed so many cracks and rubble lodged within the foundation of what defines us. The superpower country that is America, full of hardworking, industrious people, can only afford this label by devaluating life itself. I see this within every video released of a police officer taking it upon themselves to be the executioner. I see this in the monthly school lockdown and evaluation drills. I especially see this in the sickening debates about whether or not a shooting was justified, developing, as is the case with Jacob Blake, as they are fighting for their life. This desensitization deeply worries me. When I scroll through these acts of violence every day, I become a little more numb to the suffering. I must preserve my sanity in a world that expects so much from me, but I do so at the cost of my empathy. Everyone does this, and in so doing creates their own unique reality where they can exert their energy on things that impact them. The problem with this arises when we ignore the realities of others or downplay the extent of their suffering. Gun violence within Philadelphia is happening now, even though it isn't under the national spotlight. It is something absurd that we have normalized, and the repairing of such an issue takes many things. It takes a reevaluation of morals, the reconnection to empathy, and the capacity and will to change. But above all else, it takes active listening, especially from those with power. We need you to do more things like this. Listening to the citizens and people of the areas you do business with. Take polls on what people need from you specifically, as well as what we need from our country as a whole. Host panels and forums and use social media as a tool to actually engage with the people you serve. Only by slowing down and listening to those in pain will we regain our humanity and truly help them. Suffering communities deserve more than what you think they need. They deserve the chance to tell you themselves. So before you donate money or make a public statement, please listen. Not only to help Philadelphia in our battle against gun violence, but also to set an example. These acts of violence that I see on a daily basis have reached this point of severity because no one listens to each other anymore. We have normalized the ignorance of suffering, and that can and should stop with this forum. Thank you.
That was so wonderful, Naima. Nia. I just saw Naima right next to you. The way that you link up, like make it so clear that gun violence does not exist in its own vacuum, that it is connected with so many different layers of violence in Philadelphia and around the country. That's exactly I love that energy in this forum. And I'm so thankful that you wrote that. You called it a rant, but it sounded like a perfectly polished essay to me. So, all right. Next we have Mikkel. Please let me know if I am pronouncing that correctly. All right, he may not be on the call at the time. So we are going to go right over to Lanaya. And Lanaya, you can, if you have anything prepared, something prepared that you want to read, or just share a few thoughts. That's perfectly either are okay.
Okay. Hello, my name is Lanaya. I'm 14 and I'm currently going to Multicultural Academy High School in Philadelphia. I've been in Philadelphia like all of my life, so I have kind of a long background when it comes to like violence and things. I was also subjected to violence like really young, so I am a bit desensitized, but I feel like that's the problem. Most kids grow up and think it's the norm, like Abby said, which, yeah, I do think that's a bit problematic. But I feel like it's certain like reasons for violence happening, and it's kind of more problems with the system, like the protests to change the system, which the system is very broken, and violence comes from that, and people just find reason for violence instead of actually having like good reason or a better purpose for protesting. They go looking for violence sometimes, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Great. Thank you. It's wonderful to have heard you and Nia speaking back to back, because you both hearken to the fact of there being many things going on, many things contributing to this. You specifically named, like system issues, which is exactly why we're having this forum, because we want to bring folks at all levels of the system together. So really, thank you, Maya, for your thoughts. With that, I'm now going to flip over to our corporate leaders who have taken the time to be with us this evening, and for you all to introduce yourselves, both to the folks who are watching and to the folks on the call, of course, again, and then to talk a bit about how you and your organizations have been involved in your communities, if those involvements are specifically, if and how they're related specifically to gun violence, and if there's anything you've already done this year, given that this has been a sudden and unusual and truly unfortunate spike. So we're going to start with Pamela McCormick from SEPTA. Oh, Pam, we might need you to I'm going to request for you to unmute. Oh, perfect. Yeah. There we go. Let's see if I can.
Is that good?
Yes. Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michelle.
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I had written down a few notes of things I wanted to say, but then after hearing the students and their powerful words, I think what I would like to say is that at SEPTA, I hope that a lot of you are SEPTA riders. I hope a lot of you guys are going to come back to our system as soon as everybody's back in their office and traveling throughout the region. But I guess I'd want everyone to know that SEPTA, our leadership, and especially my team in public and government affairs, we care so much about our community and the areas that we serve, and we try every day to listen and hear what's going on in our community. I have to say that our police chief and the SEPTA police force, I think they're law enforcement, but at the same time, they're compassionate people. And I think they do everything that they can to try and de-escalate situations so that the violence doesn't get out of hand. And it's so unfortunate when things do happen at our station. And I know one of the students talked about being fearful of public transit, and I'm sorry about that. And I promise that we're doing everything that we can to make people feel safe and comfortable riding the system. I think overall what SEPTA tries to do, we reach out to our communities. We start working with students in schools at a very young age just to talk about safety and riding SEPTA. We go to job fairs. We talk about careers at SEPTA. So I hope these students who are so interested in writing will know that at SEPTA we love writers and communicators. So please think of coming to SEPTA for a job. I guess the other thing that I heard from the students, I love the way that some of their presentations were organized, and I love that there were calls to action, because I think we can all do something and do more to help end violence. So I guess I'll end there, and if anybody has any questions or if I can add any more later, I'd be happy to.
Good. Thank you so much, Pam. That was fantastic. Especially the ongoing open door to letting you know about how you and SEPTA can be a part of this. I'm now going to go over to Alex Whitlam from Amitech. Please let me know if I'm pronouncing that correctly or not. I might be butchering it.
No, it's totally fine. It's Alex Whitlam. Right. And honestly, first and foremost, all the students who spoke, I mean, bravo, beautifully written and well done. It takes a lot of courage to kind of get those thoughts out. So kudos to all of you for doing that. So I work for a company called Amitech. We're based in the Philadelphia area. We're a pretty large global organization, and one of the roles that I have there is I head up what's called the Amitech Foundation. It's a separate entity. It's the philanthropic arm of Amitech. Our main goal is to help all of our employees around the world make a greater impact in their community, and there's really no other community that we're I don't want to say more focused on, but more kind of dedicated to our own community here, and where our headquarters is in the Philadelphia area. So the Amitech Foundation supports many different organizations in our area. We look to focus on a couple different areas like basic needs, education, and then helping kids get involved and making a greater impact and getting off the streets to be able to get involved. So these are all areas that we look to support. I think it's really important. It's part of my job to be here to listen, to understand where the needs are. So I'm really happy to be here. Honored to be here, and again, just kudos to everyone for speaking today, because this is very helpful for us. Michelle, I think you might be on mute.
I was definitely on mute. We had a couple of, living in West Philly, there's a lot of sirens all the time, and there are a couple that went through. So I wanted to mute to make sure that it wouldn't overwhelm what you were saying. But thank you so much for that. And it sounds like there's a lot that is already going on at Amitech. So I'm really interested to hear about that in the discussion part of this with everyone else. All right, now we are going to head over to William Carter IV. If you would go ahead and share sort of what you are working on at the Chamber of Commerce and how you've been involved in this issue.
All right. First, I'd like to thank you guys for having me. Interestingly enough, I lived maybe 3 doors down from the Mighty Writers for about a year over on Christian Street. And I used to see that sign all the time. And, I actually met some of the people who worked there at one point, but this was some years ago. I want to echo sentiments of the first 2 people who just spoke. Really, the words of the writers really struck me. It really reminded me of myself when I was 14, 15 in my teenage years. I grew up in the inner city. I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia, which I tell everybody is a small Philadelphia. I moved up here when I started law school at Temple. and I've been up here ever since. So it's kind of like half and half. But yeah, violence was something that I went to public school. Violence was something that I saw. Not to say that all public schools are violent, but I was around from the inner city and saw violence on a regular basis. And you do become desensitized to it to a degree. You hear about shootings, you hear about people getting beat up, you hear about police brutality, and it just becomes a way of life a lot of times when you're coming up. You know, you want to say you enjoyed your youth and all the things that it brings. And so you tend to put all that stuff to the back of your head so you don't think about it, along with all the other bad things that happen in life, because you just want to say, hey, I'm enjoying my life. A lot of that it happens until it hits home. And I've had friends, I've had colleagues die from gun violence. And, you know, when it hits home, it hits you, it brings all of those things in the back of your mind to the forefront. And it takes a while to get over that. You know, I mean, if you're in a community where you hear of violence on a regular basis and you've tucked it away, you're traumatized. You don't haven't necessarily dealt with it the way that you would deal with any other type of affliction that you may have. And then a lot of times it comes out in violent manners or when you're pushed on any edge. So I'm going to get to your question about the chamber, but I just wanted to say that a lot of those comments resonated. That was very well written, very well expressed. And I will say this, we have to give our young people something to live for. You're generally not going to be out here shooting somebody, killing someone, or doing any other type of violence if you have something to live for. You know, and unfortunately, a lot of our young folk feel like they don't have anything to live for or anything to lose. And so I will say this, at the Chamber of Commerce, even prior to me joining, and I've only been with the Chamber of Commerce for a year. Prior to that, I worked in City Council and we're dealing with gun violence issues on that side, amongst other things. But the Chamber of Commerce a few years ago started what we call our roadmap for growth, which is really about being more intentional about going into neighborhoods, being in neighborhoods and offering opportunities for jobs, not only jobs, but starting businesses for those of us who are entrepreneurial, and trying to end the stigma that the city is a tale of two cities, Center City and the rest of the neighborhoods out here. And out of that grew our neighborhood growth project. Once again, that's about building in neighborhoods from West Philadelphia to North Philadelphia, Northeast, South, Southwest, all of those neighborhoods, and bringing the supports and resources that the chamber has to neighborhoods, so that they have opportunity to grow and increasing that dialogue. So not only am I Vice President of Local Government Affairs, where I do report back and forth through to government, local government, the mayor's office and city council, but I'm very active with our Vice President of Civic Affairs, Yvette Nunez, who basically is all about our civic entities and our civic programs about bringing resources and what have you to the neighborhoods. So we're definitely about that. We're in the middle of what we call our Restart and Recharge initiative, Recovery and Recharge initiative after the pandemic and after the civil unrest. And it's really diverse, intentionally diverse. And that's one of the other things I'd like to say about the chamber, even more intentional now about ensuring that there are diverse opportunities for entrepreneurs and for individuals seeking employment. And so you'll see we have an announcement coming out on September 18th about a number of initiatives that has to do with upskilling individuals who may not necessarily go on to college. A lot of our students don't, a good number of them either don't graduate or graduate and don't go into college, but they have certain skills or they can gain certain skills in the short term. And so we want to make sure that there are opportunities for those who, for the new economy that is coming out, particularly post-COVID. And at the same time, we want to make sure that there are supports and financial supports and technical supports for individuals who say, hey, I don't want to work for anybody else. I'd like to start my own business. And a lot of that starts with a relationship with a financial institution, building credit, things like that, I will say this, I messed my credit up in college and I just didn't have somebody telling me, hey, credit is number one thing you want to do. If you, no matter what you want to do, credit is huge. And so I had to, rebuild my credit. So there are a number of programs we're working on in that regard, and you'll be hearing more about that as the weeks come. But I just want to say I definitely liked what I heard. I thought once again it resonated with me, and I'm somebody from the inner city who came up and and has an opportunity to have discussions like this with the Mighty Writers. So thank you.
Thank you, William. You sound, I'm going to very likely steal that word from you, intentional. And intentionality, I think that is huge. I think that made itself very clear, that has made itself very clear this year with all of the discussions going on around social change that have been triggered by the violence all around the country. But I'm very glad that you brought it up, and it sounds clearly from your work that that there's so much intention that goes behind it. And for our last leader of the evening, we've got Joanne McFall. So if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, and we'd love to hear from you.
Sure. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great. So thank you. I'm Joanne McFall. I'm with Keystone First Health Plan, and thank you for allowing me to participate in this. And I want to say to all of our student writers, I'm incredibly touched by your passion and your bravery in sharing your experiences with us tonight, because you guys are the future, and we need to, as Nia said, we need to listen to you, and we need to create solutions with you, not for you or about you, without your input. We have a health plan, excuse me, we have health plans in a number of states, but in Pennsylvania right now, in the 5-county area, we serve about 450,000 members, and excuse me, about 47. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That is okay. I have my glass of water next to me here too.
I've been fine this whole time. About 47% of our members are under the age of 18. And I can't believe this is happening. As a health insurance plan, it's going to be strange for you to hear me say this, but we recognize that issues like homelessness and inequities in education and trauma and community violence and racism and access to healthy food are all healthcare issues. And we can't develop the solutions to those issues in a vacuum. And so we work with a number of community partners to provide those clinical and social supports that will help our members on their path to success. The best thing that we can do as a Medicaid health plan is put ourselves out of business, because we have helped every one of those 450,000 members walk a path to success, not just better health, improved health outcomes, excuse me, but improved life outcomes. And so we offer supports for educational programs, GED programs, college preparatory programs. We have work supports and workshops to help our members find employment and maintain that employment. We help our members with housing, with food and nutrition programs. We have plenty of partnerships with organizations that support young people, but what we need more than anything else is what I said before, be able to listen to the voice of those young people that we serve. And, you know, as a segue to the next part of our agenda, what I really want to say is that on behalf of myself and my colleagues that are also here on the phone, on the meeting tonight, you know, we're here to listen, and we really want to facilitate a dialogue with our young writers that are on the call tonight to, excuse me, to understand what we can do to support you in all of those ways that I just talked about. And so, Michelle, I want to, I guess, hand it back to you to take us to the next part of the agenda.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Joanne. And I really do like when you talk about putting yourself out of business. That's a fantastic, you know, use of a business concept to illustrate a larger point. You know, that we want to get to a place as a society where these programs, I have loved being a part of Mighty Writers and a lot of our, so many community-based organizations in our city. But if our system was running perfectly, then we would be out of business, And so that's part of the work that we're doing. And so now we're headed into the question and discussion part of this conversation. I'm going to give the students an opportunity to, they've talked, they framed beautifully their thoughts on the violence in the city right now and the violence, in all its forms. And so I'm going to give each of them an opportunity, to talk about the things that they see as needing to happen. And I'm encouraging, everyone that, there's a, these are very personal to our students, and these things can be very emotional, but these are also the real solutions that they see, knowing that they're on the ground. Before we pivot to that, us as representing Mighty Writers, Naima, I actually wanted to pivot to you just for maybe a minute or two, as someone who has chosen to be a community leader. I know you're, the track of your career and all the things that you have done, but you have always been so involved with your communities, and I would wondering if you could frame, over the course of that work, with our students and and beyond, as to why it is, for you this is particularly important, as you will, as we then frame that conversation with our students, who I know, some of whom I know you've worked with.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I'm very happy to be here, but I was almost about to cry listening to some of the students. Being from West Philly, being a part of a community that is hurting, to see the kids, how they look, and to kind of see their faces as they're, talking about what they've been through. It kind of brings me back to a time where these are some of the things that I've been through. So a lot has not changed in Philadelphia with gun violence. It's something that I've seen since I was younger, and I'm almost 40 now, and it's just like nothing has changed. So, me wanting to be in a community and do some things is because of the trauma that I faced. And, just wanting to give back and help the students and let them have a voice, because so often, we come to these town hall meetings and we talk, but nothing ever gets done. So I'm hoping that this will be sort of a segue, but an opening up of some healing that needs to happen, and some programs that it's nice to give people programming that they can do and stuff. But we as people that live in the community, we need healing, and we need a place where we can kind of voice our opinion. So when I joined Mighty Writers, it was a way to give back to my community, because I'm from that community, but also a way to let people like myself see that there are ways that you can do positive stuff and change your environment. And I think that's what young people need to see. They need to see more positive things. They need to have things that they are willing to do, or things that they are excited about. And I think that there's no excitement there. We always hear, oh, we're going to come back and give back to the inner city or the community, or we're doing this or we're doing that. But you really don't see it. What we see is gun violence. What we see is the hurt of these young people. And, what they're saying often falls on deaf ears. So I feel like there's something that needs to be done. And I feel like, I myself hold myself accountable, and I want to see a change in the community, a real change, not just us saying it. I want to actually see change. Do you know what I mean? Like,
if I could jump in here,
yes.
You guys hear me? First of all, there's no way you're almost 40.
Thank you. Yes.
Hey, I would have never guessed that. But I totally hear what you're saying in terms of the scalability of opportunities out here. So I say that to say there are a lot of organizations like Mighty Writers and nonprofits out here doing a lot of good work around gun violence prevention, around offering alternatives to just being out in the streets and possibly getting into mischief. But they're scattered everywhere. You got a bunch in West Philly. You might have some in North Philly, and they're doing good work, but they're not reaching enough people. And
right.
So one of the things we talked about is that we'd like to see it's got to be more energy and more commitment from the city. And when I talk about the city, I'm talking about both the public and private sector around offering opportunities that won't lead people down the wrong path. You hear about, I used to hear it all the time, and it's still the same to this day. A lot of times you're either going to end up in jail or end up dead, or on drugs or something like that. And so, I just coming up in my youth, you heard that a lot, and the avenues had to be shown to you either by mentors, either by if you had good parents in your life, if you had a good teacher, good counselors, things like that, to point you where the opportunities are. But to me, you should know about these opportunities like you hear about a Meek Mill concert. Everybody knows Meek Mill is having a concert, and I've been to some, life-changing concerts. I went to see Prince live, and that was life-changing to me, I must admit. However, what would really be life-changing to me and a lot of individuals if I was younger, would be, hey, these are the opportunities, and they're so readily known when you come out of, when you're in school, when you're coming out of school, this is where you go. I say a lot of times that the hardest part of my life was going from a boy to a man. And, not that my parents weren't in my life, although my dad passed when I was in my late 20s, but it was really about everybody saying, hey, these are the avenues that are best to go for you to have a successful life, have a better life, and making those attractive, making that more attractive than, the alternatives out there. And if you don't see the opportunities, if somebody's not showing you opportunities, if you don't have good parents or good mentors or good guidance in your life, it's very easy to make those bad choices because it's so easy. And so we got to make it easy for people to find opportunities.
That is a perfect segue. Thank you so much. That's a perfect segue into now, like the students themselves talking about some of the opportunities that they hope to see materialize in their communities. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go around with it pretty much in the same order. Abigail, I think you had some stuff I think you might have had stuff you want to say. I know we've talked about some things before, so let me know if I'm picking on you. But I'll start with you, and then the others, you can feel free to unmute yourselves or just do the little hand wave thing in Zoom, and I will go ahead and call on you.
Yeah. So I just want to piggyback of what Mr. Williams was saying about how you hear about Meek Mill concert more than these opportunities, which is going to help us. And I feel like it's because these organizations and these nonprofits that's within the city, I feel like they're not speaking the language that we speak, they're not reaching us in that way where they need to reach us, because it's not seen as I feel like because they're different generations, it's kind of hard for us to connect within that way. We're on social media, and these organizations aren't really on social media reaching. We're not seeing what they're posting, but I also wrote this down as a point where I feel we could connect on this social. I remember after the death of George Floyd, me and my friends was yo, we got to do something. We not gonna sit here. Wait, can y'all hear me? Oh yeah, sorry, I thought I froze. But but yeah, we was yo, we gotta do something. We can't just sit here and So me and a couple of my friends, we actually made a list, a Google Doc of petitions. Yo, when I tell you, it took me all day to make this. And it's sad that it took me all day to make this. This has been going on for so long. And I put that on social media, and I'm I don't know if it's gonna blow up, if people really gonna see it. When I tell you, so many people were reposting it, and it was just everybody's yo, sign a petitions. Some girl DM me was yo, I just spent 15 minutes signing every petition. I'm sending it to my mom, thank you. I'm yo, we're I saw my people's we was really connected. I'm yeah, imagine if they only knew about these other opportunities. People ask me yo, you was featured on this website. How did you? I'm bro, come to Mighty Writers, just for free. It was for free. I'm yeah, it's programs out here for free that we just don't know about. And it's because of we don't see it. It's not being advertised. When I post things, people because people follow me, they'll see it and they're bro, where is what's going on? I'm bro, send it. Tell a friend and tell a friend. So I feel social media is a big part that we really have to connect on that level, because it's the future. And Yeah, wait, I have something else I want to say, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I wrote like down these points, and if I could just read them to you guys, if that's okay, you know?
That's okay. That's perfect.
All right, cool. So, all right, so I feel like it's all about this anti-violence thing. It's a cycle, and it's a mentality as well. So I feel like we have to break out of that mindset, and I feel like it has to do like systematically why we have that mindset. You know what I mean? Of like turning towards violence instead of talking it out or agreeing to disagree. So I said, we need more funding and extracurricular activities involving the youth. Since we are the future, it should be made known that in the city of Philadelphia, guns are more accessible than education. And there are too many cases where I've witnessed where my peers have dreams and urging desires and they want to pursue them, but they're held back from it because they do not have the proper resources and or programs in their schools, or even emotional support from the families. Like, well, you could have music programs and all these things instilled in your school, but you go home and your family's tearing you down because, you know, that's the society that we live in. Like that's what we deal with. So it's like when they don't have that support, they're pulled in by peer pressure and drawn to the streets. That's what their friends are doing. And I said, connecting with people, this is for the big organizations that are here, connecting with people personally, because donations by itself will not be enough to end the increasing crime rates in Philadelphia. There needs to be an emotional connection between the people and the people behind these organizations who make, and executives who make very impactful decisions directly into my communities. So I have just like a few ideas of like what, you know, we could do to like bring these people together. I was saying like, you know, cookouts, ice cream social, you know, you free ice cream, you know, y'all can come through, talent shows, basketball tournaments. Like when you show up at these events, it shows us that, you know, you care, like you're involved with the community, you want to understand who we are and how we are, you know what I mean? Sorry guys, I don't mean to talk so much, but I have one last point. Getting active on social media. I already said this, but I'm just gonna read this just in case I didn't say everything. Okay. So as we see with the current events going on, the younger generation has been demonstrating their desire for justice and change nonstop. We have been very active on social media, making educational flyers and pamphlets, sending them to friends and family. It would only make sense for the executives and organizations who want to see the anti-violence movement in Philadelphia prosper to adapt with the time and the younger generation, meaning they must get active on social media and demonstrate with the people what exactly they stand for. Talk to the everyday person and connect with them. This is how you represent the communities that you make decisions for. And that's all.
That's great. Thank you. I want to point out, I don't know if the students you've noticed it, but for our leaders present, I've noticed several of you taking notes. I think that's wonderful. Just as a complete side note, I'm the facilitator and I still have a notebook here next to me, so I can't do that. But that's just wonderful right here because it's so like you're already actively involved and we haven't even finished this discussion. So thank you for that. That was just a complete side note I wanted to say. For our students, who would like to go next? I've seen, Nia, I saw you nodding vociferously, so I'm gonna, go ahead and pick on you and unmute.
Yeah, I just want to like re-emphasize everything that Abby said. She brought up so many amazing points. Like with a lot of the resources that I'm aware of and a lot of the things that I participate in within my community, it's all because of my mom. Like she's really active on Facebook. And so I see that a lot of organizations are using like Facebook to get a lot of their information out there, but I don't have Facebook. A lot of people say it's like a dying media. And I'm like, there's just like so much about it that I don't like, I'm not ready to sign up for it yet. So definitely using a lot of younger folks are using Instagram and Twitter a lot more often. And so even that, just like if you could have an outreach with teens and have like a program where you're both like spreading the word and saying like, hey, we want help creating this like platform on social media. If it could even be like a volunteer program or like a paid program or something where you can just find some teens who are willing to keep up with your social media page and just keep it updated. So then you're both like uplifting the community and providing like resources and job opportunities for them, and also spreading awareness for your organizations. Yes, I feel like I had other points because Abby brought up so many amazing points and I kept trying to like mentally jot them down. But I lost it.
Can I stop you there, Nia, and just tell you how important that is to hear from my perspective? So one of my roles with Tech too is to help see a lot of the corporate communications that we put out, social media being one of them. You know, what we're really focused in on is like LinkedIn, but LinkedIn, you know, it isn't the right platform to get a lot of these messages out. You know, and we do use Facebook, but we use it for a lot of business purposes. We get other messages out, but we're not on Instagram. So it's like a good takeaway for us, because I think there's so much conversation going back and forth. And if you're learning more from Instagram than you are some of these other platforms, it helps us to be able to think about that messaging and find out, you know, where the value is for us to get that out to you. So no, I appreciate that. And Abby, you had a lot of really good points, which, you know, I before we get into all of them, would like to hear others, but yeah, that one jumped out to me right away because it's an immediate conversation point that I'll be taking back.
Awesome. And I will, full disclosure, I will fully admit that I only just joined Instagram a couple of months ago, actually very specifically related to my involvement with Mighty Writers. So for the students on the call, your points are very well taken. I'm more of a Facebook person, but that was the first form of social media that I joined many years ago that I won't name. So, but that's incredibly well taken. Thank you.
And are there any others, like,
yeah,
information from Snapchat, from any of the others, like what are the ones that we should be thinking about?
Yeah,
Twitter is one. Twitter's a good one.
Twitter. Yeah.
Like Twitter, Instagram. I think those are the two big ones. Snapchat's good too. But that's where all the teens are, you know, and that's where they get their information from. So
yeah. We have a Twitter account as well, but again, it's mostly used for business purposes. So, you know, we need to think about utilizing those platforms in a better way.
Can I add something?
Yeah, Abby, go right ahead. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's really good because like Instagram is now like they now have this like paid promotion thing. So like you can pay to get like whatever you post like more out, like that people will see it more. So like I run this clothing line with my friend. So like we just be like, you know, running it up for like $20 for a promotion, like sure, yo, and then 100 people see it, and they're like, yo, this is a nice shirt, I want to buy that shirt, and then hey, income, you know. I mean, I'm just letting you know, so you know you can promote whatever you're promoting to help the communities that we live in. Because I never heard of Tech before. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. I totally understand. and I appreciate that.
But it's probably because it's not on Instagram. You know, like I scroll and I see like I'm like Popeye's chicken sandwich. Like all right, like you know, like this is a random paid promotion. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. But all right.
Great, thank you.
Kiamuya or Lanaya, do either of you have like additional other thoughts or things you want to contribute?
I think Abby and Nia had great points, and I wanted to go back to what Mr. Will said about giving rewards or opportunities to kids so they don't go out and do violent acts. I feel like that would be very helpful, because a lot of them don't really have anything else to look forward to. So they let themselves do stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, I appreciate that. I would just say, when I was 14, I was a sophomore in high school, and my mother made me write an essay to be what they call a legislative page down at the General Assembly, which is basically a glorified gopher, but it's a job at the state capitol where you work for a particular legislator and handle all this stuff for them, keep their books in order, that type of thing. I did not want to do it. I was 14. I wanted to hang out with my friends. I just wanted to stay in school. I actually cried because I did not want to do it. But my mother made me write this essay to be and turn it in and apply. And I got the job. I got the internship, or really the working at the state legislature. And after I got there, I loved it. Mm-hmm. But I did not, I mean, literally, my mother had to make me do this because she pointed me in direction, made me do it. And then I got down there and saw that I was down there with other kids my age who were doing the same thing for the other legislators who worked down there. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. I mean, I ended up working in politics after I graduated college, and then worked, as I mentioned, you guys worked at city council, and I'm doing what I'm doing now, which is still a test of government. But the importance of not only the opportunities, but people to guide you towards those opportunities and make you do sometimes what you don't really want to do. Because you think, hey, I'm living a great life. I just want to hang out with my friends, play ball. That's all I used to do, play ball, play, video games, all that type of thing. And I didn't want to do it, but she made me do it. And I always appreciate that. And so, once again, the importance of good guiders, mentors, people to say, hey, you might not love it now, like it now, but this is going to be so great for you. And then once you get there, you find out it's such a new experience that you really enjoy. And it brings dividends years to come. So
that's really powerful, and it's an interesting perspective about there's one thing to there's that phrase you can bring a horse to water but you can't make it drink, and you're actually flipping it to say yes you can to say sometimes you have to be like, this is what you're going to do now. And so perhaps when you add thinking about these organizations that have those kinds of people, the kinds of people who are, positively coercive, I might say, to be like, here are these applications, here are these opportunities. I'm going to stand over you until 5 o'clock when it's time for you to go back home, and you're going to fill out these applications. That's something that's a really, really innovative way of looking at it, actually. Lanaya, I know you had something to say. You and Kim were speaking at the same time, so I want to.
Okay, so I agree with what everybody's saying. It's like making good points, and I'm here for it and whatnot. But there are two different kind of types of groups of kids that kind of perceive messages differently, which I know. I've been in a lot of different schools because I was in foster care, so I kind of got to see the private side of it. I've been to public schools and stuff like that. So I feel like one of the more effective ways that I've seen kids perceive messages that kind of all fit into one type of group, where assemblies or motivational speakers coming in and kind of spreading the word, which that's also a good way to spread the word. Social media too. But when it comes to Snapchat, it's weird because not many kids I know are on Snapchat. So I don't think that would be a good way to do it, especially since the way Snapchat is kind of set up. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the most part.
Yeah. That's a really interesting observation, that my perception of Snapchat, that now I feel like I'm aging myself again, is that right after Facebook, that was the next social media thing that I downloaded. I was very late to Twitter and Instagram, but I think that actually says a whole lot. What Nia and Abby have talked about are these places where conversations are happening, and both of you are, when you talk about how you come to awareness of organizations and what they're doing, a lot of organizations have been both taken risks, but been successful at it in actually actively partaking in these conversations, both on Twitter and on Instagram, and I say risky because I know that for a lot of organizations, expressing any opinions either way can be very tenuous, but I think these organizations also recognize that there's a real way of being able to reach out to and connect with the people who are in the communities doing this work in order to get that work done. So I want to be sure to be conscious of time. I wanted to check and see, because I feel like there's a lot still that folks may have to say, if it would be all right if we extended it a little bit to about 8:10, about 8:10, 8:15. Would that work? I don't want to keep you here forever, but I also don't want to prematurely abbreviate what feels like a really great conversation. So I wanted to sort of open up to some of our leaders. I know William and Alex, you've jumped in already on some of these conversations, but I wanted to open up to all of you, like some of the thoughts you've had, or epiphanies you may have had now, or ways in which some of the things the students have talked about are already connecting with the work you're doing.
Michelle, it's Joanne. If you don't mind, could I ask a question of the?
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, yeah. And this is, yes, if you all have questions of our students, please, absolutely, this is now the time. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, I heard loud and clear, what you guys had to say in terms of, don't just, put money out there or think that is, absolving a company of more responsibility. So I'm curious, for an organization like ours, when we talk about, like, not just how to communicate better with a younger audience through all of these channels, what are some of the kinds of things that you guys think would be appealing from a program perspective? So, we're an insurance company. We're going to say, okay, we want to partner with, community organizations or other companies or whomever. And what kind of content are you looking for that you think would make a meaningful impact on your lives?
That is an excellent question.
Great question.
Yeah. It's okay for the students. It's okay to take a moment to think about it, because that's, there's a lot there.
I think if I could say one thing, I don't know if this is something that, insurance companies do, but I feel like a lot of kids in inner cities need therapy. And I feel like that's something that we don't talk about. They need therapy. Like, we keep saying, oh, we can donate money. They need therapy. They need someone to talk to and voice their opinions. Sometimes you can't get that at home. You need somebody that you can go and talk to. So once the healing starts, then it's great to say, okay, I can go and participate in these programs. But when you are used to seeing violence every day, because I've grown up in it, I've seen it. It's hard to do programming when all you're thinking about is your cousin that was murdered last week, or your neighbor who was shot. So I think, as Keystone First, I know it's a wonderful company. Is there a way that we can offer young adults, teens, or people in the community some type of therapy so that they can get the help that they need? I think that's first. That's just my opinion.
That's a great point. Thank you, Naima. I really appreciate that perspective.
I mean, are you aware of any organizations that are in the Philadelphia area that focus on that, are involved in that area?
Well, it's really interesting timing that we're talking about this, because we're working now with an organization that we use in our, we have a health plan in DC, Washington, DC as well. And they work with an organization that provides more like the kind of therapy that you're talking about, Naima, not necessarily intensive, mental health services for someone who may have a significant behavioral health condition. Right. But more about, making resources available just to talk.
Right.
And figuring out a platform for doing that. So doing it through text conversations, doing it through, video, FaceTime chats, things like that, just to be able to say, here's an adult that I can talk to about my situation and what I'm going through today. Has that person gone through something similar? So we're very actively looking at creating a partnership in this area that can make that resource available to young people who are dealing with these traumatic issues every day. So I think that's great. I wish I could say that I remember the name off the top of my head, and I don't want to go away and look for it, but I'll provide more information as a backup to this when we have that. So absolutely, I love that idea. Is there anything else from you guys, the students, that you can think of?
Yeah, Abby. Yeah.
Okay, so I thought of so there used to be the Dell Center, they used to host this event called Peace in the Streets. And I know because I used to work at the Dell Center, I used to work at Rita's, and I used to get free concerts. It was pretty cool. But so we used to have this event every year called Peace in the Streets. And basically we would have artists come and perform, artists that everybody loved during that time. We had Jaquez come, and he was singing, and everybody loved it, and it was amazing. But basically there was an event, it was a concert, and it brought our attention because we're like, yo, Jaquez is gonna be here. But the message behind it was peace in the streets. We're trying to put an end to gun violence. And I know like my aunt, she was like one of the organizers for that event. Like she's the one who said, yo, we should do this. And we did it every year. But then I remember one year we stopped doing it after that year because they started a fight like at this concert center, and like it was like a big fight. And my aunt, I remember she was just crying, and she's like, yo, like I don't even know what to do. And I'm like, we can't stop, you know? And I mean, we'll see what happens if she wants to resume it. But that really caught like everybody's attention. And it's this other organization called like Fresh Empire, and they're all about like not smoking tobacco or weed or anything bad. You know, there's just like, don't smoke, don't vape, not cool. But they would do the same, they took the same approach. They had concerts, and I remember my sister worked with them, and they had like Lil Uzi Vert, and I'm like, yo, I'm there, like Uzi's there, I'm there. And PME Rock, and it was like across the street from my house, like it was my community. So I'm like, this is dope, like I'm here. And they was handing out like free merch, and I love free merch. So, you know, they was handing out free merch, like Fresh Empire, bucket hats. It was so cool. And I'm like, yeah, you know, like maybe I won't smoke tobacco. I don't want to die and stuff. I got the message, but like stuff like that, I think really like brought our like attention. But I feel like the message like could have been like Fresh Empire did a good job with like saying like, hey, we're about not smoking. But Peace in the Streets, like every concert I went to, it was just like the performer came out and another performer came out. Like I think my aunt at the beginning said, yo, this is what we're doing. But like I feel like we need more of that. Like, yo, this is what we're doing. We better not see nobody fight or else something.
Right.
You know, like we just need more of that, like of cool stuff that we like. You know, instead of just like, hey, don't do that, guys. We need like something that's really engaging. Yes.
That's a great idea. Thank you so much. No, I appreciate it a lot. And, you know, we've started doing a little bit of that in Chester on a much smaller scale, working with some partners there. But I think it's a great idea to figure out how we can do, you know, make something like that bigger and better and reach more people. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam, I noticed you, did you have anything you wanted to say? I noticed you had unmuted, so I wasn't sure if you were.
So I guess I wanted to add to what folks have already said. I mean, SEPTA is so happy to work with other employers in the region and with the Chamber of Commerce. And there are so many wonderful nonprofits out there like Mighty Writers. Summer Search Philadelphia is an organization that I'm involved with. And I don't know if any of the students have heard of Summer Search, but they provide a lot of mentoring and counseling and like some of the problems and challenges that you guys are talking about. There's a kind of therapy that's involved with that organization because they identify students in 9th and 10th grade, and then they work with them through college. So they stick with them and help them with some of the financial things that are involved in getting into school. But again, it's a difficult program to bring up to scale. So the numbers of students that they help, they're trying to grow that number. So that's one organization that I encourage you guys to look at. And I know that there are many out there like that. And I guess I would just ask everybody also, like Joanne and Alex did, SEPTA also has an Instagram and a Twitter feed, I know. So if there are other messages that we should be getting out to so that young people are interested in following SEPTA, please tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really great question, actually. What messages would be great for or important for organizations to be putting out there and boosting, to use your, you know, wonderful term, Abby, you know, like what you know, I suppose the question there that I'm really getting at is what makes it so that you trust that message, you know, because there's organizations that might, you know, they're active on social media for the sake of being active in social media, and maybe it's not quite as believable, or don't believe their intention, to use William's word from earlier. You know, what do you want to see? You know, what's the kind of thing that signals like, oh yeah, this is, you know, they're actually real about being involved versus, you know, versus just, you know, participating in the conversation for the sake of it. And I know this came up in stark relief in June around the Black Lives Matter protest. There were a lot of conversations that were brought up around what does actual commitment to change and commitment to being a part of that conversation look like. So feel free to take a moment on there too, but you know, you all have provided such wonderful thoughts and ideas and work really for not just for the folks present, but for all of us. I'm taking notes in my head as well. So, Nia, she might, I don't think okay, that's all right, cool. Anything you might want to hear from these folks? It's okay, we can take it. And from our leaders, do you have any other questions? You know, Joanne asked a question about, you know, what they can do. Did you have any other questions, like in terms of like action or anything really related to this particular? Oh yes, Abby, yeah, go right ahead. That's all right, that's all right, that's all right, yeah.
Sorry guys, I just got a lot to say.
Don't apologize, that's why we're here, yeah.
I have a question for SEPTA representative, Mrs. Pam. Hi. I don't know if she's frozen or like if I'm frozen, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Oh no, she's unfrozen.
Yeah. All right. So I have a question. You mentioned that SEPTA has like a SEPTA security, like SEPTA police, but like, do they have to go through like an implicit bias training? Because I feel like that's something like all like police forces should do, but I'm not sure if they even do that. Like apparently it doesn't look like they do. So I feel like, especially with like in the city of Philadelphia, with it being so diverse, that they should definitely have like some type of implicit bias training, so they don't just assume things about people and they're actually doing their job right. Yeah.
I don't know all the details of all the training that our police officers go through, but I know that they are constantly going through sensitivity training. I know they've come in several times. There's an organization called Red Kite who comes in and teaches them all kinds of methods and strategies to help with de-escalation so that situations don't get out of hand. Now many of our police social workers, so that when they're walking through the concourse or in stations at SEPTA and they come upon someone who's getting in trouble or causing a problem or is having some drug issues or something, they've got a social worker there and they can reach out to them and talk with them and try to get them the help that they need, rather than, you know, taking them to a police station or something. So we're really trying to address some of the problems that we're seeing in better ways.
And
thank you.
Thank you for
Abby,
that.
this is Joanne again. I want to tell you, I think that's such a great point, because when we think about that implicit bias, you know, we talk about it in the context of, you know, police officers, but one of the things that we have found on the healthcare side is that implicit bias can have such a difference in terms of the way that doctors interact with their patients, in terms of, you know, not giving, not paying attention to symptoms that people may be describing, or thinking that people are overreacting when they're in pain, or seeking drugs when they're in pain. So one of the things we've started doing, and we started with our maternity providers, because that's a serious issue in terms of the health of mothers and babies, is to actually provide implicit bias training for our providers. And we're looking to do that more broadly across all kinds of providers, not just maternity providers. But I think that's something that people don't necessarily recognize, that it exists, and that it's something that we have to actively address. So I think bringing that up in every conversation like this one, and recognizing that it's not just enough to recognize that it's an issue, we have to do something about it. So I'm glad that you brought that up, and I'm glad that it's part of this conversation, because there are so many other places that we need to look at that within education and other institutions. So thank you for keeping that top of mind for everyone.
Yeah, Maya wanted to speak.
Okay, so pretty much this is just added on because I've been taking SEPTA for like 3 years now, and I'm just now hearing about kind of like the SEPTA police and whatnot, which it's been like a lot of situations that's happened before. I feel like they should kind of make their presence more known and kind of put a little bit more rules in place to prevent from certain things from happening, because I'm pretty sure I've seen like 2 people OD on like a bus, fights and stuff like that. And I feel like they should just make their presence more known and kind of prevent other things from happening, such as that. But yeah, that's all. Thank you.
I'm going to say thank you, Lanaya, for saying that, and thank you, Abby, too, for what you had to say. And I'll take this back and I'll let our police chief and his team know what you guys think.
Thank you, Lanaya, and thank you, Pam. From our students, is there any other feedback you have for our leaders here, or questions? Or yes, yeah, Nia.
I just want to circle back to the one question brought up earlier about what messages you should use on social media. I had to think about it because I was going through like what sort of like positive statements you can say, and I feel like at this point the problem is that companies they're like such a large thing, and they're like their own separate entity, that at this point I feel like I don't really trust those kinds of statements anymore. Like if you say something like we're here for you or we're in this together, because I see that all the time. So that's like another thing that I've been desensitized to. But I'd like to see a lot more questions. Like I feel like if you just ask more questions, or if you post a question and more so like actively engage with us instead of just saying like this statement that you think will actually help us. Like, I don't know, if you do more polls or if you just ask more open-ended questions that people can reply to, that would like actually make me engage, and that would make me think, oh yeah, so they care because they're actually reaching out and they're asking something.
That's really profound. That engagement again, yes.
Yeah, I would just say, I think that's a great statement. And just to let you know that, and part of us walking the talk is being on calls like this with you guys and listening. And so, we appreciate the invitation to be a part of this and these platforms, making them available so we can actually have this back and forth and talk about things more, because you hear a lot about pledges, particularly after the social unrest. And I know from the Chamber of Commerce standpoint, we're all about walking that talk. It's not just about a pledge, it's about being intentional about it, for that, mentioning that word again, and putting more resources and effort behind it. So it really is helpful to have this type of platform. And thank Mighty Writers for that, where we can hear. This has inspired me to even do more work in that regard and to listen more. And at any time, you all have my email address. If you come up with some ideas and some things, feel free to email me, reach out. I will return the email, the call. And, it's important that we keep the dialogue going and it doesn't just end on a Zoom call. So thank you again.
I really appreciate that, William. Do we have any other final wrap up thoughts from all of our wonderful participants? You guys have given such incredible feedback, and like I said, I'm taking notes in my mind as to what this how to take that forward. First, increasing my own engagement on Instagram, but do you all have any final thoughts that you want to present to folks watching or to each other before we
say something real quick? I echo so much of what William just said. And I think one of the things that all the students on the call need to recognize, that you coming out and talking about these things is a profound level of leadership. And I would say harness that leadership and what you're doing, the way you're thinking, the voice that you have, and help us help you. So tell us ways that we can continue to empower your leadership, continue to help get engaged and understand these situations better, so that we can make a greater impact. Because really, I don't want to speak for everyone, on the call, but I think we all want to make a greater impact with the organizations we represent. So these kind of platforms, as William said, are fantastic. So, I've learned quite a bit. Appreciate the opportunity. And I just think we need to take advantage of more opportunities like this. So, continue to think about us when you're thinking about ways that we can continue the engagement together.
All right. Thank you, Alex. Any other final wrapping up words from folks?
I enjoyed this so much. I just encourage all the students to keep thinking and writing and talking, and I think you're going to be great advocates as you move into your careers. So absolutely. Well done, everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyone else?
I'll just echo everything that's been said and just encourage you guys to keep using your voices, and we will keep doing our best to listen to those voices. But you have incredible experiences and perspectives, and I'm just grateful that you all were willing to share them and to share your time with us. So thank you.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, I would just like to say that thank you first of all for the Mighty Writers and those that are hosting this forum tonight. But let us say that we're in a time of crisis. And unless we're willing to come out, particularly those of us that are parents or considered elders in our communities, we're not willing to put boots on the ground and become the front line to show our faces in the battlefield, we're doing a great disservice to our youth. They're crying out to us. We have to come out and put ourselves in the front line of these activities. Too many people talking behind screens and talking from their offices and being other than where they need to be. We need to be out as a force to show our people and show the world the way that we can overcome this scourge in our streets. We're in a crisis. We're at war. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is a perfect way to wrap this up. Wrap this conversation up. Thank you for being a part of that, Leroy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to give just a huge thanks to everyone, to absolutely everyone who's involved. Abby, Nia, Kimuya, Lanaya, thank you for giving your time. I know that school is just about to start. Nia, you're in your first week of college. I know that because some of my coworkers are involved in your new student orientation activities. So I know this is a very unusual beginning of the year. But this is, for all of you, the way that you have adapted to a truly unprecedented time is remarkable. And the stories, I would be remiss, being part of Mighty Writers if I did not talk about the ways in which you're going to inscribe those stories onto our futures as we move forward. I look forward to reading those and sharing those and being a part of those in our community for many years to come. Pam, Alex, Joanne, William, thank you so much for giving us your time and for being here. I know you are phenomenally busy. Your evenings are your own. It's strange in this time where we are remote working. You're still working full time, and so your evenings, I value my evenings for sure. And so I know you all do too. And thank you truly for sparing that. Finally, Naima, my co-facilitator, I'm truly honored to work with you. You're easily, this is a complicated time to talk about bonuses and things, really positive things have come out of this. But my partnership and friendship with you really over the past 5 months has been an absolute highlight. And I'm so thrilled to be working with you, continue to work with you, because I know we have a lot more work to do, right here in our own neighborhood. So thank you so much for
it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure working with you. And I hope that we can continue fighting the good fight and actually doing the work.
And actually doing
and that's what we do it every day. So, we're with the kids, we're in the communities, and we're giving back, and we're actually on the front line. So when the kids say, we feel unforgotten, we are there. places like Mighty Writers, you can come and you can write and you can, you know, have your voice be heard. So it's a pleasure, it's an honor, and I look forward, you know, to another day.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you. For everyone who is who are watching, if you are interested in learning more about Mighty Writers, whether this is your first interaction with Mighty Writers or if you have done many things with Mighty Writers before and want to learn about what we are doing this fall, please go directly to our website, just mightywriters.org. You will see all of the classes that we have coming up. You'll see things that we have done in the past. Please follow us on our Facebook. We do have all three. We have a Facebook, a Twitter, and an Instagram. You know, we continue to stay active on those. Some of these conversations that we've had, you can find earlier archive versions of various interviews and things that we've had with area authors and activists on our Instagram, but you will also be able to find versions of those on Facebook going forward. If you are looking for a direct connect to our discussion today, we have an anti-violence class that is upcoming this fall, so feel free to check that out. For any teens watching or any people who are parents, relatives, friends of teens believe would be interested, definitely, again, registration for that, information registration is also on our website. Again, as Abby said, it is all free. There's not a charge at all associated with this because we don't want there to be any barriers at all to being able to participate in this, you know. And so we have 8 locations across Philadelphia and in Camden. And so, you know, you will, you know, right now while we are all virtual, we'll remain virtual. So you can join by your phone, join by a computer, join by, you know, like call in. Eventually in a post-pandemic world, whatever that might look like, you will be able, they will have lots of options of physical locations to be able to go into to be a part of this work. So thank you all again for being a part of this. And we look forward absolutely to continuing to have you a part of the conversation at Mighty Writers. We will have another conversation tomorrow for everybody who is interested. With Monet Davis. She's going to be joining us for a conversation about what she has been doing since her truly brilliant Little League run 6 years ago in 2014, and is going to be sharing with, you know, all the ways that she continues to remain active in Philadelphia now and the things that she's doing with her future. So we encourage you to join us at 7:30 tomorrow evening for a truly fantastic conversation. I imagine she has lots of thoughts about this issue as well. So thank you again to everybody who participated. Thank you to everyone who has joined us, and have a good evening. Have a good evening.
Great job.